One of the great things about an index universal life policy is that you have the ability to change your payments into it really on a month-to-month basis. But the problem with that is if you don't understand what you're doing and if you don't know how these policies work, you can very much lose your policy and lose your money, and that is tragic. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through the 3 things that you need to understand and be aware of before you start changing how much you're putting into your policy, especially if you're reducing that. If you're increasing it, no problem, you're gonna be fine. The problem is if you are reducing how much you're putting in and you're reducing this for a long period of time, that could lead you to losing your policy, and we don't want that. If this is the first time that we are meeting, my name is Nobu Musekiwa. I was able to quit my 9-to-5 and also pay off my house by asking real estate professionals very specific questions so I can make better decisions about my money. And I was a licensed financial professional. I am here to answer your questions so you can make the best decisions for yourself regarding cash value life insurance. So I want to just make sure that we're on the same page on how the index universal life policy premium works exactly. So when you sit down with your person that is helping you to design your policy, you're going to let them know how much you want to put into this policy every single month. That is what is called your planned premium. So that is how much we want to put in or be close to that number as much as possible and not dip lower consistently. And I'll tell you why in a minute. That number that you give, let's say you say I want to put in $500, that is going to determine a few things. First, it's going to determine how much insurance the insurance company is going to cover you for. So if you die tomorrow, how much would they pay your family immediately? That is then going to determine the minimum amount of money that you should be putting into this policy, right? Because in the end, this is a life insurance policy. Now, you may be using this for other things primarily. It may not be primarily your use case as life insurance, but it is a life insurance policy. And so without payment to the life insurance, then the account is going to cease to exist. So it is important for you to understand what is that minimum that is going to cover the life insurance itself. And then that planned premium is also going to determine what the max you can put into this policy is without then triggering having to pay taxes. While you're able to change your payment amount whenever you want, it is important to understand that this is going to impact a few things. These types of policies are designed where you are consistently putting in more money than what the actual cost of insurance is. When you look at your illustration, that illustration is assuming that you are going to continue putting in that 500 for the next 15 or 20 years or whatever amount that you determine when you're putting in, when you're doing that illustration. When you deviate from that, a few things are going to happen. When you are adjusting how much you're putting in close to that minimum or even below it, then you are now putting your life insurance policy in jeopardy. Now, if you need to do this 1 month, that's fine. If you're doing this for the next, 6 months to a year, and you know that this is a permanent situation, then you need to have a conversation with your agent to see if it might be worth rewriting the policy to make sure it's actually an amount that you can afford. Because if you can only afford to put in the absolute minimum, then an index universal life policy is not a good choice for you. It would be better off switching to either a whole life policy that is for less life insurance or a term policy. But you never want to have an index universal life policy and only be paying the minimum for long periods of time, because that is going to guarantee that your policy is going to lapse, which means that you will not be covered. At that point, if your health is not good, you won't be able to qualify for the account again. So the number that you absolutely want to know is what is the cost of your insurance, and that is going to vary year to year. So you want to understand what is the minimum guaranteed premium, what is the absolute minimum that you need to put in that is going to cover your cost of your insurance. If you make any adjustments, don't make any adjustments that are below that. And if you aren't sure what the number is, you can get it from a few places. You can log into your account with your insurance carrier and check to see what it is. You can call your agent that worked with you, or you can also call the insurance company directly to find out what the actual cost of insurance is on a month-to-month basis. Or it could be annual as well if you're paying on an annual basis. You also want to know what your planned premium is. You should know that because you chose what that was when you spoke to your agent, and you want to be as close to that as your minimum and not deviate too far from that. If your plan premium that you said was 500, you don't want to change that and dip it to 100. That is a huge variation. But if you had said 500 and you switch to 450 one month or 400, that's probably fine. But again, you want to make sure that it's not less than the minimum that you need to keep your policy going. And then you also want to know what your max number is, right? Going lower than your plan premium is not ideal. Going higher is absolutely fine, but you want to know what the max is that you can put in each year into your policy so you can plan ahead and make sure that you're maximizing and fully funding your IUL so you can get the most out of it. If you ever send an amount that is above that number that'll trigger tax consequences, the insurance company will actually send the check back to you and ask you if you really want to do that. So it's usually harder to put too much in accidentally, but it is very easy to put too little in and have your policy lapse, which is what we don't want. Let me know in the comments what your biggest question is about Index Universal Life. Another big question I get a lot is just how do you qualify for an IUL? How do the applications go? So make sure you check out this video right here, which is a step-by-step on how to apply for an Index Universal Life policy. I'll see you there.